guy.
There he is.
Chris Andrews. Hold on one second. Let me get everything.
Put him in the big box.
There he's in the big box, and we're good to go. Mr. Andrews, how are you? Welcome back to BVB. How are things at the SouthPoint this morning?
Oh, busy this morning. We had a lot of movement, and particularly in the colleges, but also a lot of pro totals getting boards getting rattled there too. So busy this morning. Everybody's talking about the Aaron Rodgers thing. What kind of an adjustment do you make?
Chris,
it's been a little busy.
Is there a standard answer for that? Because I've been asked that all morning too, and I'm like, guys, everyone does it different. How much is somebody worth? It's only worth how much their backup is worth. It depends on what team. How the hell do you answer that question, Christopher?
Well, that's funny because I was working with William Hill. I went back to Cal Neva briefly to help them through the transition when William Hill bought them. And, these don't get me started on these European guys, but anyway, they want an algorithm.
You can say whatever you want.
Well, good. Thanks. They said, well, what's a backup quarterback worth? And this was, 2012, I guess, something like that. Okay. So I says, well, let me give you two examples. Tom Brady, the two best quarterbacks of the recent history, unquestionably, Peyton Manning and Tom Brady. Tom Brady goes out and the first game, and what happens to the Patriots? They go 11-5. They missed the playoffs by a tiebreaker. They had a very good season. Yeah. Peyton Manning goes out. They went 2-14. They were the worst team in the league. Yep. So you tell me how that adds up. There's just so many other variables. Of course, Matt Castle was. Listen, he was just a mediocre journeyman quarterback. But they had Belichick as a coach and a very good, system. And then for the Colts, I remember I think it was Tom Moore, the name of the offensive coordinator at the time. Yep. He says, "Listen, if 18 goes out, we suck. We don't practice suck. So we're just stuck with what we got, Yeah. So, and like I said, you're going to come up with a formula with that. You just can't. And, let's say, I don't want to knock Kenny Pickett too much, but he certainly didn't look good. But if he goes out and you bring in Trubisky, another guy who was like a number 2 overall draft choice. And he's serviceable. He's okay. Now Mahomes goes out. I can't, I always liked Henny as a backup, but he's retired now.
Yeah.
I can't think of who their backup is.
I don't know who it is either.
But it's going to be a big drop off. It's going to be a big drop off. So you just can't come up with a number. Every situation is just so much different.
Chris, I got into a little bit of an argument, shocker, on X, Twitter, whatever we're calling it now, last night, because I said refunding of bets for injuries is stupid.
Yes.
What is your take? What is your opinion on the quick reaction of, if you bet Aaron Rodgers, we're refunding everything right away because unfortunately he went out in the first 2 minutes of the game?
Well, I saw your tweet last night and I couldn't agree more. I thought it was perfect. And I know, Dave and I have had this discussion before over the years. You make a bet, you made a bet. What could I tell you? Sometimes the breaks go your way, sometimes they don't. And even I saw a poll this morning, and I don't know if you retweeted it, but it might have been Darren Ravel. Yeah. Said, even he asked the public, are you for injury refunds or not? And even the public, 67% said no. Listen, in this business, it is a business of honor. And, you just have to accept that's the way it goes. You win, you expect to get paid. You lose, you expect to pay. That's just the way it goes. And the breaks go both ways. And, it's a bad break if you had Rodgers maybe as an MVP or to lead the league in passing, or even, I guess it wasn't so bad if you had the Jets last night. That worked out in your favor. But, regardless, that's just the way this business works. And to screw it up at this point, and I know some of these places like the FanDuels, the DraftKings of the world, and some of these European guys want to do all that stuff. It's detrimental, and overall, it's going to have a negative effect on our business.
It's a slippery slope in determining where to go.
Right.
Which one do you do? Which one don't you do? Which team? Which player? What bets do you refund the futures to? It's too much. You make a bet. We grade it. When you win, you get the money.
Dave, how about on the kick return? There was an obvious tripping last night. So you get your money back if you had Buffalo because they tripped the guy. We saw it in the replay. I mean, I got to admit, I didn't catch it on the return when it
No.
happened. I needed the Jets pretty good, so I was very happy with it. So, but afterwards, I mean, that's just what happened. I mean, what are you going to do?
So Dallas was 2.5 or 3 before the game.
Yeah.
You wake up this morning and you go, well, obviously they're not that. And I did a show already this morning and I was asked, well, how do you adjust that? I said, you find that Jets number where somebody is actually going to give you money, whether it's a rhombus, a parallelogram, a bad guy, whomever. We got to find that number, right? This is one of those ones where you're sitting in a room and, with the guy next to you or the girl next to you now saying, get to the number. How do we get to the number with this game now, with them coming off a Monday night and going to Dallas, who look like world beaters on Sunday night?
Well, Dave, I was listening a little bit to your last segment, and you talked about the biggest problem, and this is before the Rodgers injury. With Rodgers, even in the lineup, we knew the offensive line for the Jets was bad. Now you're facing Dallas, who, well, I'll tell you what, they can rush the quarterback as good as anybody in the league.
Mm-hmm.
I thought this number should be 10. I saw it kind of settle in at 9.5. So I am at 9.5 with the, with the market, with the adjustment. I kind of think it should be higher. But I got to say, I'm kind of rooting for this kid, Wilson.
Mm-hmm.
I just think that, listen, it was a horrible choice, number 2 overall. I mean, there's no question about that. Yeah. But I read where, Rodgers really tried to help this kid an awful lot. The team, I don't know if they responded to him, but that defense is great. I mean, that's another variable in the equation. The Jets defense is probably as good as anybody's in the league right now.
Mm-hmm.
So that might keep the score down and keep them in the game. So I guess, like I said, this morning when I looked at it, I preferred 10. I settled on 9.5 just to be within the market. I even see some 8.5s out there. But we'll see what happens. But I think 9.5 is an okay number. I don't feel like arguing over one little half point because I don't know. It's totally ambiguous. The team. I'm not sure if they responded to Wilson, but that defense was lights out last night. And I think they knew that the burden was on their back. Dave, I don't know if you remember. You were a little young. Boy, I don't even know if you were born yet. Jesus, I'm trying to think now.
I was born in 70.
Okay, well, you were 4 at the time when
all right.
When Bradshaw went out for the Steelers, and
I Gilliam.
Well, no, it was Mike Kruzik came in, and the Steelers. I forget. I think they still hold the record for the number of shutouts. It was on Green and Lambert and Ham and Mike Wagner and Mel Blount, all those guys. They knew they couldn't give up anything, and they had a bunch of shutouts. They didn't allow a touchdown, and I remember. When they finally allowed a touchdown after X amount of games, I can't remember who it was. Either Mike Wagner or Glenn Edwards slipped, and the guy got loose, and I think for the Oilers scored a touchdown. And they're all. I mean, they went like 6-7 games without allowing a touchdown. No, they weren't all shutouts, obviously.
Right.
But they didn't allow a touchdown. That was and I know we talk about the '85 Bears, and rightfully so. But I still think that one Steeler defense was probably the best I'd ever seen.
Huh. Week 1 to week 2. Oftentimes teams say their biggest adjustments, their biggest changes happened when they look bad in week 1. They can look much different in week 2. From a bookmaker perspective, how do you handle that? Do you let the public just bet you? Pros bet you? How do you handle week 1 to week 2?
Well, it's a great overreaction time. Excuse me. People overreact to everything that they saw last week, and I'm not a trend guy at all. I don't like that, and I always say that games are decided on the field, but the prices are decided by the public and the bookmakers and the odds makers. We have 2 situations. The one trend that I do look at is teams go from a home dog to a road favorite. And we have 2 of those situations this week. The Colts were a home dog, and they looked pretty good, and I admit that. But now they go on the road at Houston. They're a road favorite. Same with Cleveland was a home dog. and they go on the road to Pittsburgh, who looked horrible. Looked as if it weren't for the Giants, but weren't for the Giants, they looked like the worst team in the NFL. But that team went from a home dog to a road favorite. And like I said, games are decided on the field, but prices are decided elsewhere. Mm-hmm. And right now, I think you get both those home dogs. I kind of like both of them. Just because of that situation, it hits at a pretty good clip. It's not nothing's 100%, but it hits at a pretty good clip over the years. But to get to your point, it looked like overreactions to me. But there's a bunch of overreactions. And,
right.
I kind of like this week because I think the public overreacts, and we usually wind up doing pretty good.
So the book is open, despite the fact that Colorado won against Nebraska. Everything's still operational. San Francisco won and beat the Steelers. But it's rivalry week in Pittsburgh. The Browns are road favorites to the Steelers, Christopher? Like this is this real? Am I looking at this? They're up to 2. You got them at 2. There's other books that put 2.5.
Yeah.
Matt likes to ask me these questions, and I'm just going to ask you because sometimes he doesn't believe me. Is that game getting to 3?
Well, let me look up. The ticket count right now is about 4 or 5 to 1 in favor of the Browns.
Yeah,
it's a Monday night game.
Yeah,
it's called the Get Even or Get Even Worse game. So
put that on a T-shirt.
That's a good line.
Get even or get even worse.
I
love that.
The late game. That's what it is. So I think we're going to get a lot of play. Let's see how the public does on Saturday and Sunday. And again, I don't know what this. If they're winning, they're going to press. If they're losing, they're going to press. I think there's a chance that the game does get to 3.
Interesting.
I think there's a chance.
Chris, you mentioned that there's been some movement with college. What are you guys seeing from an Alabama standpoint? They're over 30-point favorites on the road against South Florida coming up this weekend. They got their first loss. Texas went in there to Tuscaloosa and beat them up. What's been the reaction at your book for the Crimson Tide?
Hasn't been a big reaction yet, but just talking to a lot of people. And before the season, I even said, I think Ohio State and Alabama are going to be slightly off this year. And I think, so far that seems to be true. Bama, we knew was going to have some problems at quarterback. And I think, again, that seemed to be true. I guess we could say the same about Ohio State. Ohio State, their first couple games, they haven't even scored the point spread. And that's always that's a danger sign. That's a team that's way overrated. So you have situations this week where they're both kind of big favorites. Alabama, I haven't seen much movement on that game yet. Do you have a game number right there? Let me look up and see what we got on it.
Yeah, I got it. Let's see. Bama is 145, 146. You got 32.
Yeah. I really have nothing on the game right now. I mean, a lot of the little stuff on Alabama, but that's not a surprise. That's kind of, in the number every week. I think that number's about right. I think they may have found a team that could take some of their frustrations out on. But, that's I don't know. I would definitely have my questions about Alabama.
191, 192, Chrissy. We know this game very well. The backyard brawl. Pitt is playing West Virginia in West Virginia. Pitt off of a shit performance against Cincinnati.
Right.
And back home how much this game means to the people.
Oh, my God.
The betting amount stuff happens all over. This is a big game. This line flip. What's going on with this football game?
I made the number Pitt 1, so I have no beef with the number. I think that's good. But, Dave, I've been to I've gone to West Virginia one year when, and I'm trying to think, Kaz Myslinski, was that again, you weren't born yet.
Wow. Oh my God.
Man. Went down to that game, and he got into a fight. It was the Pitt, I think it was the, whatever they call the president or the proctor or whatever it is.
Right.
He got into a fight on the football field.
God.
I mean, it was crazy. I remember going to a basketball game down in West Virginia, and it was crazy. I remember the Pitt fans were throwing the popcorn on the court and all that. So yeah, this is a bad rivalry. A quick little story. Whoops, there goes my phone. My cousin.
Hey up. There you go.
My cousin was having dinner like in some fancy restaurant in New York, and if you're, a lot of times everything's real tight, because it's, Anyway, sitting right next to him is Bob Huggins.
Oh.
And anyway, has dinner, and on the way out, he says, "Hey, Coach, I want to tell you, nice seeing you. Hope you're feeling." This is after he had the heart attack. Nice seeing you. Hope you're feeling well. I got to tell you, I think you're a terrific coach, but when you're a player, I didn't like you very much. And Huggins looks at him right away and goes, "You're from Pitt, right?" He says, "Yeah, that's exactly right." Because we didn't like Huggins when he was back there. He was a pretty tough guy. But that rivalry goes back, and I'm glad to see they played Penn State again this year, and they played Pitt again this year. Those rivalries are so important to college football, and really what separates college from the pros.
Yeah, it's a shame losing a bunch of them.
Yeah.
No ranked teams are playing this week, Chris. This is one of the earliest in recent memory that we've seen a week without a ranked versus ranked game. What are you guys seeing right now from an action standpoint? What's the game of the weekend so far?
Oh man, I got to tell you, most bettors don't care about that.
Yep.
I'm seeing right now, I'm going through my list, and even as we're talking, I see a lot of moves happening. Games like you'd never expect. I'm looking at Iowa State and Ohio.
Yeah.
Who think they're playing the dog in that game, huh?
Well, they're just coming back on a favorite now. I opened the game 3. They took the 3, but now it's coming back to 3.
Okay.
I'm looking at like Rutgers, Virginia Tech. Of course, there's a quarterback injury for Virginia Tech. Northwestern and Duke, the GPA Bowl. A lot of money on that. So up and down the lineup. Now, come Saturday, your ordinary fan may stay home for some of these because there really is not that many good games out there. But I can tell you early in the week, and that's when the serious bettors are kind of rattling the board. They've been rattling it pretty good this morning. We've been really busy this morning. We've had a lot of action. So
last one for me, sir,
before
we let you get back to actually working. Because you keep telling me I got to get a real job. You still have a real job.
Yeah, is that what you're not calling this a real job? Right?
This is a real job, Christopher.
Right,
we're calling it what we can. Please, my wife watches the show. She's going to tell me. If Chris said it, you got to start doing something.
Don't worry. I tease Michael Gaughan sometimes too. He says, I'll have lunch with him or something. He's all right. You better get back to work. And I'll say, work? Really? Is that what we're calling it?
Oh,
I know I'm employed, but
Listen, as long as Michael's writing checks, you call it whatever Michael wants to call it.
That's it. So far, all the checks have cleared. I got to tell you.
So Tuesday, we got a big weekend, right? We're following up with all the football and everything. And then you walk into work on Tuesday, you see these line moves and everything, and there's no games except baseball. Yeah. Tell people what the handle is like on baseball, because Matt is smoking hot on baseball now. He has all the data. He's rolling right now, picking games and sides and totals. He's rolling. And people want to stop betting baseball in September and want to bet the football. It's true. There's nobody betting baseball in September in a book, is there?
Well, I'm looking at the Giants Guardians game. I got 10,000 on each side.
That's what
11 o'clock in the morning. So they're still rattling the board pretty good. Usually I try to put out today's baseball from the SouthPoint. Because we run a dime line. I think we got the best line. The tightest straddles, in the world. Even Pinnacle doesn't have better numbers than we do. So our baseball business is probably, when you add it up at the end of the year, there's a couple reasons for it. Number one, we do use a tight straddle. The other reason too, we have parking right by the book. Now sometimes the parking lot's full. There's nothing I can do about that. That's the way our business is. But if you could park, you can run in, make your bet, run out. At the end of the year, it's and I can't give you the exact numbers, but it's when we ran it for the last time, which was a couple years ago. It's remarkable how close it is to the football season. When you look at the numbers, because you got to remember, it's every day. Starts late March, ends now in November. So you add everything together between the daily, just the number, the first 5 innings. We put in team totals. We got will they score in the first inning, which guys love that bet. So I mean, we do a lot of baseball business. And Dave, you've been around. I mean, you're using a dime line. Your win percentage is going to be very slight.
Right.
But it creates a lot of traffic, brings guys in, and overall, I mean, we win a little bit at the end of the year. It's not, it's not fantastic, but the handle's monstrous. Probably, percentage wise, probably better than almost anybody in town, I would say.
Very cool. Last one. What do you think the closing number will be for Thursday night with the Vikings on the road at the Eagles? It seems like that's going to be 6.5, 7.5, kind of ping-ponging through the week.
Yeah.
Was it close that in your mind on Thursday?
Well, I opened the game 8, and I didn't have a strong opinion on the game, but I thought 8 was a better number. They bet me. They took the 8. They took the 7.5. I have a feeling we'll get back to 7.5 somewhere by Thursday. Well, we don't juice numbers. Everything we keep at 11 to 10. I have a feeling we'll get back to 7.5 on that game. But I got to tell you, the Eagles won. They covered. They didn't look all that great. I got to tell you. But the Vikings didn't look so hot either. We all know it. Yeah, I mean, they lost last year. We know that they had a negative point differential, even though they had 13 wins or whatever it was. Yeah, so I think people were looking for the Vikings to fall a little flat on their face. Let me just say that is a trend that holds up most of the time, but most of the time is not all the time. So I'd be careful with that. I think the Vikings will drop back a little bit, but that division is not all that tough, certainly at this point. Everybody's looking at Detroit, and they won. They won a big game. They don't look all that great either. The Bears don't look so good, and the jury's still out on the Packers. So far, so good, but the jury's still out.
Hey, listen, there's a lot of people texting me about the other stuff with the studio and other stuff.
Yeah.
Follow you on Twitter. Go by, say hi to Chris. I don't want to get involved in that, but there's a lot going on.
Yeah.
So we're not going to talk about that. I have an addendum. I had no more questions, but now I have one.
Okay.
Patriots, Steelers, both 0-1, Chris.
Yeah.
It's okay to say it. Who's going to have more wins?
Oh, boy.
Well, it's a tough one. But, Dave, I hate saying this, but I think the Patriots.
You're off the show. That's it.
I would agree.
I
would agree.
Let me tell you why. I really, and I've been saying this since they signed him. I think Bill O'Brien is really going to help Mac Jones.
Oh my God.
O'Brien's a terrific coach, and he was a horrible general manager, but he was a really good coach, and I think he's really gonna help Mac Jones. I'm sorry, Dave.
That's okay.
You're welcome.
That's
Whatever you want. Open invitation. Whatever you want to come on. Chris, thank you.
I know I was going to piss one of you guys off, but sorry, Dave. I had to go that way.
You're the best.
We'll
talk to you soon. That's Chris Andrews of the South Point joining us here on the Bostonian versus the Book. Great to get him on the program.
Knew he was going to say that. He's right.
Smart man. Welcome on this show. Everyone.
Damn it.
This show. Whenever he wants to come on this show. Open invitation to this. The reason why it's worth asking that question, by the way, is Josh Allen. 4 turnovers last night for Josh Allen.
With this question,
because the Patriots could win a game against the Bills.